I'm very careful about the phrase that was used in that affidavit by Kevin Moss. Because you see, with a trained eye and the trained eye of a prosecutor, I read every line one by one. I've done this more than 10 years ago and came to the conclusion that Asiwaju had nothing to do with this.
Drug allegation against Tinubu is just a storm in a teacup, says Festus Keyamo. Welcome to Trending with VOS TV. The spokesperson for the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, in person of Festus Keyamo, described the drug trafficking and money laundering claims against the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, as just a storm in a teacup. While Keyamo, who is also the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, stated this during an interview on Channels TV Politics Today. He further claimed that Tinubu is not a drug baron, that funds forfeited to the US were tax deduction. Well, on Tuesday, the social media went ablaze with documents released with what appear to be certified true copies of a settlement order issued by a court domiciled at the Northern District of Illinois regarding forfeiture of funds in some bank accounts linked to someone named Bola Tinubu. According to the court documents, the funds in bank accounts linked to Tinubu were proceeds of narcotics trafficking. The court then ruled that the sum of $460,000 in one of the accounts be forfeited to the US government.
Now, at that point, the burden was on the prosecution in the US, or from the states in the US, to prove that the funds were proceeds of narcotics. Now, that is, if you look at paragraph, I want you to go to paragraph 2 of the affidavit of Kevin Moss. He kept saying that it was his reasonable suspicion. It was like probable cause, probable belief. It was speculative. All it was speculative. They had not come to a definite conclusion. Let me tell you what happened. Now, if you see the whole gamut of that affidavit, it was more or less like, well, you know, it happens to all of us, Nigerians. You go to a new land, you go to a new place abroad, any Nigerian you see, especially from your own tribe, they become like brothers to you. You associate with them, you visit them. You may do 1 or 2 transactions. You may not exactly know what they are involved in. You may not know what they are involved in. It happens to all of us. And you can see that the whole of that investigation actually touched on 2 or 3 Nigerians. So let me admit that. That had nothing to do with Asiwaju. And I don't want to mention their names here. People should go and read about it because they have families in Nigeria. The other Nigerians, two of them, who were actually linked to narcotics. One of them was actually arrested. That one made confessional statements and confessed another Nigerian as the one involved. But that principal suspect, read that affidavit, never mentioned the name of Asiwaju. What happened? Asiwaju went to open an account. The address by which he opened the account was an address already, you know, used by these people. I think some block of flats. Maybe he happened to be in that block of flats too. So they now linked it to say, oh, well, these other people they were investigating for narcotics, they are in the same address used by Asiwaju to open that account. So that is what is there. I cannot deviate from it. They never mentioned him as the treasurer. They said he was treasurer of Mobile. They never said he was treasurer of any narcotics group. What they said was that he was found to have worked for an organization, owned by the people they were investigating. That he worked for that organization, that distribution organization. He worked for them without going into details, without having any proof of it. I'm very careful about the phrase that was used in that affidavit by Kevin Moss. Because you see, with a trained eye and the trained eye of a prosecutor, I read every line one by one. I've done this more than 10 years ago and came to the conclusion that Asiwaju had nothing to do with this. Because I read this thing more than 10 years ago. So I read it with a trained eye. So that is the phrase. If a prosecutor is looking for something to nail him, you have to go to that particular paragraph that now links Asiwaju. After they went all the rigmarole of investigating those 2 individuals, Nigeria, they now came to the point of Asiwaju. They now came to the point that where they now found out that part of the friends, relatives, that's what they use, friends and relatives, who worked for that organization owned by these people was somebody known as Asiwaju.